Guys, welcome to Raising Vibrations with myself, Simon. Today, guys, we're going to be going through the new moon in Libra forecast, and basically just generally chatting about, as we always do, basically just chatting about the whole planetary alignments that are taking place at this stage, and some of the really big things that are taking place from Pluto's direct. In other words, Pluto moving into the direct position, and what this actually means for us. And I'm personally excited about this, to be honest. Within my own personal life, there is a lot of change that is taking place, a lot of great change, a lot of moving in a good direction in that sense. So, from that point of view, I'm definitely feeling these planetary alignments in a positive way, which is always good in that sense. The only thing that I wanted to say to you is that I'm currently going through a Mercury conjunct or Mercury sextile Neptune transit at this stage. So it's going to be very difficult for me to actually keep my words in some form of structural order in that way. But at the same time, there's this wonderful opportunity to actually communicate love or compassion and heartfulness in that sense. So I'm definitely tuning into that energy. I do apologize sincerely if I do sort of lose you guys in terms of the spaciness that could be coming from me, but I'm definitely, like, in a sense, consciously aware of that fact, but hopefully at the same time being able to channel really deep stuff. So that's one thing that I wanted to share with you guys, that Mercury transit, or at least that Mercury Neptune transit at this stage. So I'm excited about that, but I've definitely been experiencing a lot of spaciness, especially today. And the back of my neck, for instance, has been really tensed up in some sense. Like, there's a lot of pressure on the back of the neck. And the thing is, though, any Neptune transits, especially if there's a Mars connection to it, which I think there is, or there's coming up to it. In fact, Mars is going to be making a conjunction to my Neptune within the next 2 weeks, and I can definitely feel that. But Neptune reflects the nerve center, or the central nerve structure that exists at the back of your neck over here. Essentially, consciousness emanating from that experience, or from that place over there. So it's been kind of interesting. I've had to be very awake and aware to my environment. I've had to take things very slowly and precautiously in that sense. I haven't been able to, usually in a day I would accomplish quite a lot of things, whereas now I'm finding myself having to be very much in the moment and very much captivated in what I'm doing and not allowing distractions to take place, because I get extremely overwhelmed. But I'm wondering if this is something that's actually taking place for everybody at this point in time, or if it's just something I'm experiencing. So let me know in the comments below what you guys, if you guys are experiencing the same thing, because I know that Chiron is being heavily aspected at this stage with Mars and such, and of course the Venus making that opposition as well. So I wonder if that could also be taking place, for us collectively in that sense. And that's one thing that I really wanted to chat to you guys about today and really bring through in this video. In fact, one of my main, how do I put this across? Neptune. How do I put this across? My main aim here is to actually get from this video the understanding of what that Chiron is actually symbolizing in Pisces, and what Neptune is actually symbolizing in Pisces for us at this point in time. And we just need to simply look out in the world to be able to see what this Neptune experience is actually manifesting for us. So that's what I really want to convey with this forecast today, and also at the same time kind of link that to the very thing that I was talking about, that Mercury making that connection to Neptune in my own chart, and that being for quite some time actually. Me talking about this specific subject, and I've got this very strong connection to this message. There's something very deep within me that really wants to express what I'm about to share with you in this video, and I hope that I'm able to actually get that convey that message across, because I truly think that if we can make sense, if we can actually get to the bottom, if we can actually use this new moon and full moon experience through this month, if we can actually use its full potential, it lies within this message, and that is specifically to that Mars making that connection to Chiron and Neptune, that square that's taking place. So what I'll do is I'll go over to the chart and I'll show you specifically what I mean by that in that sense. But before, I want to talk a little bit about the planetary alignments, and again go over some of the very strong Neptunian experiences that we face as humanity at this point in time. And that is that, unfortunately, and many of us can recognize this, that for almost, just under 2,000 years, we have been literally living through the Pisces age, okay? And the Pisces age reflects to us, many different dimensions. I can speak for a year relative to the Pisces archetype and what it symbolizes from the age. But very short and very simple, it reflects to us the nature of not only culminating an entire cycle, but also at the same time reflecting to us the connection that we, in a sense, have to the divine, to the creation, to source energy itself. And one of the manifestations that has actually arrived from this has been our search to find God through religion. And this is actually intrinsic, this is natural with the connection between Sagittarius and Pisces in the zodiac. It's natural to it, okay? It naturally manifests there. And the way that this happens is that Sagittarius, will reflect to us the search, okay? We're essentially searching for something. And I can take away the language of astrology and just say that every single one of us, in a sense, is searching for something, searching for or developing our sense of philosophy, looking for the truth. It exists naturally within us. And then that connection to Pisces reflects to us that we're essentially looking for something deeper, the deeper meaning, okay? And from that experience, from that search, from those processes that we as physical 3D orientated humans interact with. In other words, how we interact with that search, how we interact with those archetypes, is that we develop a sense of intuitive knowing, a sense of intuitive understanding, our intuition. And this is really, really important to understanding the nature of this planetary alignments at this stage. So that's my first header that I really want to get across over here, is that natural connection that we naturally search for within our lives as human beings, as the 3D conscious realm that we exist within. It's a natural instinctual process. And how we connect our natural truth, in other words, what we directly experience, okay, that we find as our truth, not something that has been told to us, and how that connection exists, okay, and how we link it to our spiritual destiny, to our spiritual search, as it were. So for instance, for me, I sit here and part of my philosophy, part of my connection, part of my orientation, etc., is inwardly connecting to myself and recognizing that I enjoy speaking about these things. There's something deeply healing for my own soul when I do this type of stuff, when I share these types of experiences with you, when I share the nature of reality and truth and how I interpret the astrology and so on and so forth. And part of that experience is showing me that my soul in itself is developing and learning through this archetype. And self-awareness comes from me recognizing and saying, hey, why am I doing this? And as I continuously cultivate this, as I continuously go through this experience, I recognize within myself an intuitive knowing. I align myself with the spiritual destiny. I look at the nature of my life and say, hey, I'm not interested in this, I'm not interested in this, but this really appeals to me. And so therefore I progressively go through those experiences. I progressively align my heart with that statement. Okay, this is really interesting to me. And as I collectively align myself with all those experiences, I then become aware of a dimension, an aspect of myself that is more higher than me, that is essentially outside the realm of my physical senses, that I can feel touch. But I use those senses to experience that. So what I'm trying to say here is that ongoing pursuit of becoming more aware is linked with the connection between Sagittarius and Pisces. And through the Piscean age, we have, in a sense, been searching for that. That's natural to us, that we've been searching for the mysticism, the essential unknown, as it were. Now, because of that search, that Sagittarius being connected to Gemini, to Pisces, there has been that manifestation of man-made creation and laws and religions. Okay, in other words, manipulation and distortions, taking advantage of innocence from essential consciousnesses that exist on Earth at this point in time, that are using it for their own good. Now, a part of this process, and I'm going to really go deep over here, correlates just through the ages that we're going through. And the emergence from the Pisces is reflected in Yin. So it's naturally going to be a very dark and inward experience. So part of this process is also that what is happening on Earth at this stage and the manifestations and the changings that are happening on Earth at this point in time are linked with darkness, as it were, okay, like in a sense of non-light. And we're emerging into the light. In other words, the shift into Aquarius. It's just one layer, but a very deep layer at that. And this is what emanates. I mean, if you truly want to understand the nature of your physical reality, you kind of look inward and recognize what is emanating from the core. You know, if you watch a river, for instance, and you notice that the river is kind of like brown, okay, it's not its natural color of clear blue, and you think to yourself, like, I wonder why this would be the case. You would kind of go to the source of it to recognize, to understand, and then you would eliminate it. It's like the roots, etc. So what I'm trying to say here is that one of the deepest layers that are reflected through this Piscean age and the transition into the Aquarius age and these planetary alignments, and also our relationship to Pisces itself, in other words, to the Neptune and Pisces experience and the Sagittarius and the Mars and Sagittarius that are currently happening at this stage, is that we are becoming awakened, becoming aware of all distortions and manipulations that have taken place through man-made religion, through the patriarchy, through old ways that we have defined our search for source, our search for God. And that, of course, has been clouded by a sense of dimness, by a sense of sleeping state. And that becomes that manifestation, that becomes that original point in which we are then essentially subjected to the lack of where God exists, a lack of awareness that God exists. Okay, so to simplify, what I'm really trying to say here is that these man-made religions, these ideologies, these searchers for truth, in other words, all forms of religions in themselves, have been divided because we have been under the cloak, under the veil of illusion. And Neptune Pisces will link directly to the nature of creating alternate realities. In other words, that we have searched for God, we have created the idea of God, and because of the distortion, the disconnect, the manipulation of us being disconnected, we have created the image and been forced to create the image that God exists outside of ourselves. Okay? And this idea of God existing outside of ourselves comes from the initiation of patriarchy, the progressive movement of patriarchal conditioning into our lives. And one of the most deepest experiences comes from the south nodes of Neptune, the south nodes of Uranus, the south nodes of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, which all reflect a time where we lived in a matriarchal conditioning of inclusion and sharing and total connectedness, that the goddess in us, we recognized that our spiritual essence came from the goddess, and that she symbolized the birthing from the womb into creation. And so therefore we honor her natural ways. So the introduction of man-made religions and the progressive dominance of patriarchal conditioning, in other words, hierarchy. Instead of looking at everything as connectedness in some way in a circular fashion, we're looking at something that is the person stands at the top and then it trickles down to the bottom. And that through this progression, through this transition, through this movement, we have lost, in a sense, the essence of creation, of life, of source, yet at the same time also developed that need to create that search, which then has led us to finding God, but then essentially through patriarchal conditioning, okay, to find him outside of ourselves. And the way that this happened was through this transition in which patriarchal conditioning, people that imposed this, took away all forms of ancient knowledge that existed, that created and showed the idea that God existed within. In other words, that we are source energy. And placed it outside of ourselves by saying, we'll remove all your knowledge. It can be as dramatic as killing all the elders in tribes, and then the young kids, etc., and misguided youth have essentially got no guidance, mature guidance. The elders don't exist, and therefore replace it with their own conditioning, with their own sense of this is what God is, and essentially taking the security of us that we placed within ourselves and saying, now you place it in the priest, you place it in this higher being, you place, and that's the illusion, that's the illusion, that's the bottom line of this whole thing with this Chiron and this Neptune and this Mars, is that we're going to get this opportunity through now to really become aware of how We place our security outside of ourselves because of the distortions and conditioning that are deeply rooted in our psychology, that essentially that our security exists outside, but really it exists within. And that disconnect, and that's reflecting to us that disconnect. And that Mars through Sag will be doing that. It will be showing you straight away in all of your realities how that's happening, how that disconnect will be there, that disconnect from nature, that disconnect from your natural selves, okay? That disconnect from that intuitive knowing. Instead of asking yourself, your inner voice, what is right for me, we search outside of ourselves and then becomes overwhelmed with the amount of information that exists there and the contradiction, and this person said that and that person said this and this research did that, etc., etc., etc. That the parameters of all these things are so profound, it's so large, that when you actually make a decision based on information that exists outside of yourselves, there is going to be a natural disconnect, because how do you know that it works specifically for you? Do you see what I'm trying to get at with this conversation? And like I said before, I'm trying to structure it in a way that makes sense, and I really hope that I've conveyed that message. But to simply put it across, the squares between Chiron and Mars and Chiron and Neptune now will show the polarity, where we have the illusions of fear, and that we have essentially got love taken away from us, that it is moved, and that we need to progressively integrate it back into our lives. We need to progressively see the unification in humanity. We need to progressively see that me and you, that even though we have different skin color, we are still the same at the bottom of it. We're still part of source. We still come from the same place. We were still birthed the same way. And that the illusions of separateness are linked with patriarchal distortions that are kept in place to specifically not allow you to feel that connectedness, to feel alone, and then through that experience to create all the distortions, all the emotional suppressions, all the stuff. And to recognize that spirits and flesh are not connected. And that illusion keeps us in place. And that Mars is so there. It's so there. It's that Mars moving through that experience. But what I wanted to share with you guys is that what I've just spoken about now is the bottom line of this whole experience. It really, really is. And this is going to manifest in two ways. The first one is that these energy alignments give us this opportunity. And in fact, what I'm going to do is going to go over to the chart to show you quickly how this is manifesting, keeping in mind what I've just spoken about, okay? I'm going to show you how these two things can actually manifest. So I'll see you there now. Okay, guys, the first thing that I want to talk about before I go ahead and show you some things over here is a little bit on the placement of Pluto in Capricorn, and also the movement of it now going into direct. It's now moving direct. It was stationary on the 22nd, and now it's moving direct. And from the point of view of Pluto going through Capricorn and now moving direct, there are a couple of things here. It's not going to be going back past 10 degrees, which means that we are essentially awakened and aware of the underbelly, the distortions. We are fully awake to the nature of the world that it is at this point in time. And one of the brilliant ways that I can exemplify this is if you just go on the internet and you type in Scottish elections, you will see that there is a myriad of YouTube videos saying you can see how this has been rigged. I mean, just in that sense, that just shows you straight away, okay? And then Pluto at the same time, because it's moved past the first 10 degrees, the involution, as it were, in other words, the breaking down, the sense of, okay, this is the problem, is ending. And so now we are moving into the progressive aspects, the decan, of how do we now recreate this? What do we do? How do we define ourselves in a new way? And this is incredibly powerful. This is incredibly powerful because the fact that we are at a position where we're starting to now integrate these new definitions of who we are relative to the past 3 years or 4 years where Uranus has been squaring this Pluto and literally liberating us from all outdated definitions. Pluto through Capricorn now is giving us that opportunity to define ourselves in a new way by exploring, by being excited about the fact that we're unconditioned, okay, and that we're now moving forward and we're trying to integrate new ways of being within ourselves, new definitions, how we are structuring our reality. And that's the bottom line, and that's amazing. Because from that point of view, everything gets funneled through that. So now all of a sudden, and this is what I wanted to share with you guys, was that Mars' relationship to Neptune and Chiron like I said in the introduction in this video, reflects this distortion, this illusion of separateness. But at the same time, it's also integrating the idea, and this is why I want to get this video out there. I want to share, because this is what it's actually going to be able to do for us, that we can recognize that the development of our own intuitive truth, Sagittarius, can come from recognizing that we are connected to Source, that we listen to our own inner authority. Okay, Saturn in Scorpio, trine Chiron. Look at that beautiful synchronicity over there. And that's what Saturn in Scorpio has been doing. It's been helping us now develop that inner sense of authority. I can make the choices for myself. I have the responsibility for myself. And then, of course, with Mars making that square over there, yeah, that's going to be that disconnect. Okay, there's this disconnect. I can see this polarization. I can see the people that are definitely buying into the fear and thinking that the world is doomed and being overwhelmed by the fact that there is no hope. But yet at the same time, if you can recognize and embrace love and embrace the idea that you are your own creator, the master, that no matter how distorted it might look on the outside, inwardly within yourself, you're becoming more crystal clean. And so that's what that new definition can be, Pluto. But yet if you continuously keep on being overwhelmed by fear and loss of hope, then that Pluto through that place is just going to continuously drive home that there is absolutely no hope and that we're doomed. Okay, so that illusion of separateness straight away breeds the fear. And the fear needs to be taken away and replaced with love, embracing love. Go hug your neighbor. Like just feel the connectiveness. Feel the connectiveness in this video. Feel the connectiveness in your group and your support, your friends, your family. See the love in everything. And allow yourself to be embraced by that. Feel humanity in that way. Okay? So that's that one layer. That's that one step. Okay? And there I've actually written it in that sense, okay? The Mars and the Chiron. So the next thing, okay, is now the Jupiter coming into this experience. You know, right at the bottom of the chart, Jupiter in Leo. Now Jupiter's making a square to Saturn and making an inconjunct to Chiron, but yet at the same time there's a grand trine that will be making its way with Mars, Uranus, and Jupiter. There will be that grand trine in fire. So the first thing that we've got to recognize through the spiritual thing to have our awareness in is recognizing that Saturn square Jupiter will make you feel that there is no hope and limitations, but also at the same time that there's also the fact that now we need to act because we do have limited time from the perspective of the 3D world. Our physical bodies have got a biological clock. So you recognize that. Okay? And then, at the same time, that inconjunct to Chiron will make you feel that illusion of separateness, that you're only looking at yourself, you're only looking at your ego, and then therefore you need to expand, you need to analyze, you need to recognize, become reflective of how you can link your special destiny, Jupiter, to the overall good of society. Polarity points of Leo is Aquarius, the groups, how you can link your society, how you can link your special destiny with the group. And then that Chiron is recognizing that everything is connected, no matter how bizarre it might think or feel, and or how disconnected or how odd the experience might appear. If you surrender to the idea that we are all connected and there's a grand plan and that special destiny exists for you, and that you link it with, hey, here's my special destiny. How can I fit into the world? How can I make it brilliant? What can I do? And then through that experience, activate that fire trine that's taking place at this point in time, and linking that sense of destiny, okay? In other words, that feeling of that there is something here, Uranus and Aries, trining Jupiter in Leo, linking that sense of I'm going in this direction, along with the sense of special destiny, Jupiter in Leo, and then linking it completely to your belief system, your structure of inwardly knowing who you are, Mars and Sagittarius. And then starting that new evolutionary cycle from that point straight. So inwardly looking in yourself and saying, hey, I want to be this writer, Aries, new beginnings. And I have the special destiny. I love to write fictional like books or fantasy, etc. Okay, fantastic. So how do I orientate my new belief system, my new understanding of my truth with that experience? What do I do? Mars and Sag. Okay? And that fire trine gets activated, that spiritual fire trine, and it's awesome. Unfortunately, at the same time, Uranus is going to be making well, should I say the South Node is making an inconjunct to Saturn in Scorpio. So the south node of Aries, in Aries, is making the inconjunct to Scorpio, Saturn in Scorpio. And this is really, really big. Because from the point of view of when we get born, new beginnings, there is a sense of needing to create security relative to the idea of separation. So when a baby gets born, it intrinsically knows that it needs to return back to its mother's breasts, or at least to its mother, because as it gets born, there is a sense of, oh, I don't know what this world is like. I have no idea what it can be. What was the last thing that I remember feeling safe about? Oh yes, the mother's womb, etc. So the return back, relative to the fear, or to the experience of separation, the anxiety in separation. So there's going to be a natural experience where as you progressively move forward into this new way of being, you're going to feel this, okay, this could be overwhelming, or hey, I've got a little anxiety, or can I do this, etc., etc., etc. And that doubt creeps in, and that creates that fear, etc. And I want you to know that at this point in time, you're being like really, really supported through this experience, and the security that comes from within, that you have so developed through the Jupiter and Cancer cycle that happened from 2013 to 2014. It is okay. No matter how daunting the task might be, do it. Allow yourself to have that experience and to go it. Show the world who you are in that way, okay? And a part of this process, and this is what I mean about these two things that are happening, is that on one hand, if your frequency is clean and you're vibrating on the love frequency, you can do that. But if you're vibrating on the fear frequency, you're going to feel entrapment. And this is the Uranus coming up to the south node. There's going to be this progressive feeling of I need to break free, that I'm being controlled. Okay, this is probably happening more on a consensus level. If you just look at the distortions in the outside world, you can feel that there's no hope, that you're going to be overpowered. Okay, there's a feeling of entrapment. How am I ever going to link my special destiny? Here's Simon talking about this video of being activation, etc. But yet I can't even see, like, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that there's this fear as well. So you've got to look within. You've got to develop your inner sense of self. And that's what the new moon actually represents within this thing. The new moon in Libra. Libra is inherently extreme. It is not balanced. The creation of balance is the process through Libra. So any ideas about Libra being balanced in itself, it's not true. It works through extremes, through polarities. It's the opposite, 180 degrees. Libra correlates to an opposition. And so the truth here, the healing here, and I want to show you something. If you have a look over here, you have Pluto squaring Uranus and squaring Libra and the new moon, okay? And this is a, relative to Pluto, the moon will be in a balsamic, pardon me, not a balsamic, but a crisis in consciousness square. It implies that we're individuating the process. We're trying to access the parts of ourselves that are unique and independent, and we're throwing off all definitions, okay, and finding balance through the experience. That's what that moon in Libra represents relative to Pluto. And then, of course, the sun is in a crisis in action square, which would imply, again, how we are actualizing ourselves in this new world. So we're individuating our self-identity, and then we're at the same time integrating that. And that's where that actual new moon exists. And this is, again, coming back to the original point of this new moon cycle, which was that now we need to start integrating, like that picture on the left-hand side over there, okay? The yin and the yang, the spirit and matter, the essential and ethereal, the physical and the non-physical. And when we integrate into these experiences and we recognize that connectivity and that unity, and we fill ourselves with joy and love, do we access? That's the truth. That's where the key lies with this new moon. That's where we find the balance and the harmony, because there is no illusion of separateness. There is no polarity. Okay, the duality exists in the fear, us and them. There is none of that. They are just people themselves acting out their own evolutionary dynamics, which in itself is a little bit unfortunate. You know, the consciousness isn't evolved. And the more that you radiate love, the more that you radiate from the heart, the more that you integrate yourself and find unification, the more that you will drive this consciousness out of the world. And that is ultimately what we want to be doing. So when you connect the two in that sense, and you find the Libra connection, and you're there and you vibrate through that experience of love and harmony and connectedness and acceptance and inclusion, that's when you will find and vibrate on the highest frequency relative to this experience, relative to this new moon. And that's what your mantra will be. How can I find unity? How can I find my connectedness? How can I work through all my illusions? How can I not be able to project my own truths onto other people and say, this is the totality of it? No, this is your truth. Focus inwardly, 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 inwardly. How can I resonate from here with pure organic white light that is undistorted, that is just me? Show us who you are in that sense. Okay? Fantastic, guys. I really hoped that this video gave you something to work with. I really hope that this video gave you the opportunity to actually do exactly what I was sharing with you over there, in that sense, that sense of excitement and inspiration, and allowing you to be able to develop that and cultivate that, so that we can then move forward on Earth's timeline over here in a more organic way, in that sense. So yeah. Okay, guys, fantastic. I mean, from the point of view of other things that are happening at this point in time, I wanted to share with you guys that, in fact, yeah, let's have a little chat with you at this point in time. The first thing that I want to share with you was that I'm going to be releasing very, very shortly, and maybe some of you guys have seen on my Facebook page, some of the work that is really close to my heart, and this talks about the planetary south nodes. And the video is almost finished in terms of putting all the things together. I'm just going to record it now. And that's going to really show some cool stuff about, when patriarchal took over. So it's more about what I'm sharing with you right now, but a lot more of the astrological influence and such, and how we can actually move forward, and how the nature of our times and Pisces culminations taking place. So a lot of that's going to be happening in that video. And I'm really excited to be sharing this with you guys, because not only is there some deep astrological teachings, there's a lot of stuff that isn't really spoken about from an astrological point of view that I'm going to bring to the surface, which I'm sure you guys are going to love. Very, very deep stuff. And at the same time, the article will be linked with that video, which I'm going to be sharing with you guys, like I said, within the next couple of days. And go ahead and check that out as soon as I release it, and share with me your thoughts on this experience, because a part of what I'm really trying to do over here is create the story where we recognize where we have come from, we recognize why it is that we are here, and then how we actually look forward. Like, how do we actually orientate our awareness to a point where we can say, okay, these are the choices that I'm going to make, because ultimately there is free will that's intrinsic within creation itself. That's the thing. That's the reason why we have these dualities in that sense, because there is essential separating desires that we have. Okay. Another great example of actually showing you the nature of your life on Earth is the fact that there is a separating desire. You have desire to come separate from source in that sense, and experience a duality or experience a polarity of yourself to learn more about who you are. And you can either chase these desires, or you can return back to source with the recognizing and looking back within. And ultimately, that's the purpose over here. So to share with you guys that experience, to really, really get you to be on the space and know that as I'm walking through my life, as I'm recognizing my life, I'm looking at myself and going, hey, I'm returning back to source, which is awesome. So that's what that's going to be called. And it's actually called Back to the Future. So I'm super excited about that. And if you want to know a little bit about that actual article itself, go onto my Facebook page, which is and in fact, I've got it written over there. Go onto my Facebook page, and I've written a little excerpt on that experience of what's in that article. It's quite long. It's almost like 5,000 words. But at the same time, what I was trying to do with that was create that exact experience, where we have been, where we presently are now, and how can we actually make choices going forward that are of an organic nature, and how we can be connected in that sense and remove these illusions and such, so that your life on Earth is a lot more enjoyable, that you can experience it in a more organic and clean way in that way. And for many of you guys that are into the ascension idea, that being that process as well, ascending through the darkness. So that's coming up really, really shortly, and I'm really excited about that. And in fact, next year sometime, I think it's the 1st to the 3rd of May, there's an astrological conference that's happening in Norway that I'll be speaking about. And I haven't actually confirmed the actual conversation itself, but this is the one thing that I really hope to actually speak about, because it's so close to my heart, the planetary south nodes, and how Pluto is going to be making that connection to its own south nodes. In other words, we're going to meet our past. That's a little tidbit over there. We're actually going to get to a point where we're going to meet the past. The very past that took place at that point in time is going to be here and present for us. So profound stuff in that sense. So that's going to be happening, and hopefully that will be the case. The other thing is, guys, is from the point of view of astrology itself, if you're interested in wanting to learn about astrology, if you're interested in understanding the dynamics of it, at least from the perspective that I embrace, you know, come over to my website, simonvorster.com, and I've got my online astrology school over there. If you guys are interested, I'll if you've watched my YouTube video and you've come over there and purchased it, I'll give you a 15% discount on the price. You just mentioned to me that you watched it through YouTube, and I'll do that for you. And that's a whole like 10-hour or 11-hour like online astrology course that really is deep but simple and comprehensible, and it allows you to actually look at the own symbols and karmic histories, etc. And then at the same time, you tutor with me, so you learn how to do your own chart, you learn how to do all the other types of charts as well, and you empower yourself so that you don't have to go and see astrologers in that sense all the time, but you can kind of like intuit your own symbolisms over there and align yourself with your own spiritual journey, which is ultimately what raising vibrations is to recognize that looking within, to recognize your own spiritual journey and align yourself with that process. So check that out as well. And if you're interested in, and if you guys want all guidance sessions, check out my website as well. Relationship astrology, I do, guidance sessions. And in fact, if you're just looking for simple, like, short readings themselves, I do that as well. If you want that calibration, that's available there too. And one thing that I'm going to be starting fairly shortly, in fact, maybe even next week, Sunday, is a questions and answers, hour session, basically, where I come on to Google Hangouts, and you can just basically access that and ask astrology questions relative to your own chart. So it'll be like a donation thing over there, and what you just come in and you say, hey, I've got this question, what does this mean? And I'll answer it for you. I'll give you the guidance necessary for that. And I'm really excited about that. I really would love to do that, to give the opportunity to say, hey, I'm here. This is your time. Ask me what you want to know, and I'll give you that information. And I think that can be incredibly healing from that point of view, because from the perspective of becoming more aware of your own karmic history, you can actually know what it is that you're needing to work through in that sense. So that's one of my main reasons. That's my intention, to come from the heart and say, hey, I know this astrology in this way. Do you want to have access to that information? So tell me what you guys think about that. Send me an email, come over to my website after this and send me an email and say, yeah, this is a great idea, sign me up, for instance, or write in the comments below, etc. Okay? And then a couple of other things, guys. I know the Neptune through the houses series has been a little bit slow. I have been working really hard recently trying to compile this big section on the planetary south nodes, and also focusing a lot on my relationship to Wake Up World and writing the articles for them. If you guys haven't actually seen any of the articles that I've written, please go check them out. Wake Up World Astrology, or Wake Up World themselves, and then go show them some love. They're an awesome bunch of people that are literally waking up the world through all different forms of stuff. So if you're interested in the science, if you're interested in healing, if you're interested in like the different forms of alternative medicines, etc., like everything and anything that you can think about, they've got that on their site. So go show them some love. The link in the description below in terms of going straight to them. There's so much there that you guys can read about. Check out their Facebook page. They've got like almost 1.2 million followers. So they're really big in that sense. And they work from the heart as well. So that's awesome. And they have, there's loads of information that you can check over there, and it's a strong community. So I've been focusing on that as well. So the Neptune through the house has been a little bit slow. I do sincerely apologize. And I have got the Neptune in the 11th is scheduled for next, and as well as I'll do all the ones that are left. And then I'm going to start with Uranus through the houses as well. And my intention with this as well is not only just to share with you guys, astrology, but to say, hey, once you've studied your own astrology, or once you've done this online school, or once you're trying to figure out your own chart, you can have access to my YouTube channel that allows you to learn these things, that you don't need to go, oh, I wonder what that means, or your friend says, I've got Uranus and this, blah, blah, blah. You can know, oh, Raising Vibrations has actually got like an excerpt on this, and let's watch it quickly to see what happens. Not to see what happens, like, that's brilliant, just to see what happens. Oh, look. No, but more seriously in that sense, to kind of like integrate a sense of awareness relative to planetary alignments and such. So yeah, I think that's about it, guys. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and to share this video, and to check out the article that is linked with this video itself. It is in the description below. Check out my website for all the type of astrology services that I do offer, and check out Wake Up World as well. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button on the Facebook page to get all the updates relative to this. And until then, guys, have a fantastic day. Have a wonderful new moon in Libra experience, and don't forget the message that exists within this content. Until then, guys, that is it from Raising Vibrations. Take care. Bye-bye.